following is a brief summary about what LGBTQ military personnel endured from being banned outright from the military to the cruel legacy of don't ask, don't tell until finally it was repealed. An estimated 13,000 service members were discharged in the 17-year period where don't ask, don't tell was a policy, according to the Associated Press. A decade after the demise of don't ask, don't tell, a lot has changed for LGBTQ Americans in the military. But several service members and military experts say the policy's dark shadow lingers on. When President Bill Clinton signed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy into law in 1993, it was a compromise between the White House and Congress to end the existing policy of outright banning gay service people that had dated back to World War II. Under the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, which had bipartisan support, gay men, lesbians, and bisexual people were, in theory, allowed to be in the military, but they would be separated from the armed forces, in other words, discharged, if they revealed themselves to be homosexual, bisexual, tried to marry a person of the same sex, or there was evidence that they had engaged in same-sex activities. One of many horrible parts of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was that it did nothing to address the culture of bigotry, discrimination, belittling, bullying, and hatred against anyone who happened to get themselves labeled as gay, whether they were or weren't. The full scope of the horror that military personnel who were in the LGBT community endured will probably never be truly known. Most people that got out under the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy can get their discharges upgraded from general discharge to honorable discharge, but there are still some today that have not done so. Following is an interview with a woman named Anastasia, who was actually in the military at the time of some of these transitions. She worked in a special position that supported the rights of people in the LGBTQ community. So let's listen to what she has to say.
See, when I was in, if you were a part of the LGBTQ plus and they found out, they would kick you out.
Don't Ask, Don't Tell era? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry? That Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
See, I was in during that time where it was Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
You just shut your mouth and
Right.
That's so sad. That's incredible.
Right. I was there because I joined in 94.
Oh, okay. So
yeah. So you understand what I'm saying? Like when I joined, there was no openness about it. It was if they found out, they would chapter you out the army. Then it was Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And look here, you do what you got to do. We ain't gonna ask and don't tell us. We don't want to know. So what ended up happening, right? So Barry Winchell was a soldier, and they took him to this bar. It's a drag show bar. It's a gay bar called Connections. The reason why I know, because I've been there before. And the person that he was dealing with was, she was transgender. She was called the Porcelain Goddess. Because I remember watching her perform one time. So what ended up happening, and these two guys took him to this place. He didn't initially know, but whatever the case happened, they didn't like the fact. And so one night they started messing with him. He beat them up at a barbecue. He beat the two guys up at the barbecue. He came home later drunk. So I don't know what happened with the CQ desk or where the CQ NCO was and soldier was. I don't remember what happened, but they went, one of the guys that he beat up at that barbecue earlier that day, they came with a baseball bat and killed him right there at the CQ desk. So like I said, I was at Fort Campbell at the time, as a matter of fact. And how we found out about it was this. They was like, hey, y'all need to come in. We need to talk to all y'all. So they recalled all of us because it was on a weekend. Because he was killed on July the 6th. So it was that 4th of July weekend, 4-day weekend, right? Mm-hmm. So they called all of us in. So they gave soldiers 72 hours that you can tell us, you can tell us that you're a part of the LGBT community and we will chapter you out in 72 hours. That was their response to Barry Winchell.
To chapter you out. In other words, because this man had been, let me just get this straight. This man had been murdered because he dared to
He didn't dare to anything. The fact that they kind of thought
they suspected.
It didn't make any sense.
Okay.
It was no sense.
Homophobic people being homophobic, just.
Right.
Mhm.
And if you look at it, like you said, the murder became a point of reference in an ongoing debate about the policy known as don't ask, don't tell. You know, instead of dealing with the homophobia,
they dealt by punitive measures.
Right.
With the
I don't want to deal with y'all. So we just gonna put you out now. If you want to get, and you had straight people that wanted to get out the military and was like, yeah, I'm gay, just to be put out the military. When I was stationed in Kuwait, my commander was married to a woman. It was no big deal. It was what it was. She was married to a woman. And, you know, then in regards to transgender soldiers, we were in Alaska at the time when that happened, and that they were allowing them to transition. But this is the thing. The crazy thing about it for me is this. The people were saying, well, why do we have to pay for them to get transitioned?
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
They're going to join the army just so they can. First of all, if you look at the budget for the DOD and look at how much actually goes to that versus Viagra.
I know.
Remember that? We talked about that.
I remember that. Oh, yes, I do.
And it was like, okay, that's fine. If you want to bring God into it, God said, God allowed you to have a limp penis, and I don't want to mess with what God is saying, right? Isn't that what
right. It was all just homophobic bullshit. Yeah, absolutely. The following tells the journey of two men who were in the military at the time of some of these transitions.
We met probably 2 years ago initially, kind of just through mutual friends, events, parties, things like that. Didn't actually talk though.
Oh, we said a hi, goodbye kind of.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like you can't tell. Oh, he's gay. And then you try to go talk to him.
Well, until you invited me running. But.
Well, we said we went on a run, but we actually kind of ran maybe half a mile. Once we got back to our cars, we sat there and just talked 3-4 hours, and it just gave me a vibe. I'm like, I kind of like this guy.
I was set to deploy, so it was kind of like, oh, I'm deploying. So it was kind of like, although we were hanging out, we were trying not to get attached to each other. And we kept going on dates, and things evolved and got more serious until the day I actually deployed. Yeah, and he came and saw me off.
I have a couple of things he sent me, like a compass.
Yeah, antique compass. I got from the Afghani shop down there. So
a little teddy bear. I don't know. It was just very beautiful. To me, that's what I wanted.
I was actually deployed and started thinking about it, and just something felt right. You know, kind of like how things just make sense. I saw myself looking at the rings, Afghani rings a little bit more, and kind of thinking what it would be like, and he surprised me with a proposal.
Yeah. I thought I was the marriage type, but I never thought I was going to get married, because back then it was, I used to think when I had pressures back home, I was a girl, so I was like, oh, I'm never going to get married. Yeah, it's never going to happen.
Maybe we're a little bit of a product of our time, I think maybe homosexual relationships were more temporary, 10 years ago, because it was always thought, there is no permanent union, or in maybe in a military standpoint at that time, with a different policy and whatnot, it wouldn't have been allowed. With Don't Ask, Don't Tell going down, the option being out there, it kind of changed my mindset. I no longer was looking for temporary or anything. It was to the point where, I could see that potentially happening. Before that could never happen.
But I actually loved it so far.
Yeah, we keep getting told that the first year is the roughest. So, hopefully that's not true. But if it is, then we have some good years ahead of us.